Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, What Life Was Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I'm your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites within communities throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. His tours spotlight on the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the North Congregational Church in Springfield, Mass. So, who designed the North Congregational Church?
Henry Hobson Richardson. He was probably the most famous architect in the history of the United States. And he did many churches around the country, including the Trinity Church in Boston, but also the Buffalo and St. Asylum Church, and a few train stations around the area. I believe he did 4 structures in the city of Springfield. 2 are still left. I think the courthouse and his church are left. Another church was taken down with his. But his works are held in high esteem. During his lifetime, he may not have done an incredible number of structures, but they're all quite beautiful. And his style lasted for about a decade after that, with his associates did many buildings. But it died out, and not many people remember him. His friend and co-worker, Frederick Law Olmsted, did many projects with his sons, too, and that name still survives inside of the country. Now, he did the North Congregational Church of Springfield, and what we're going to do now is talk about the church and history and what it is now. We're also going to talk about its neighborhood and how well maintained the church would be. Now, the church design is from 1868 when he first put the design together. It's made out of beautiful brownstone from Longmeadow in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. Its structure includes a spire embedded into the steeple, which is nice. The parish hall is to the right, embedded into the structure. It was finished 4 years later in 1872, and it has gone through much, but it's still a pretty decent looking church.
And what has the church become now?
Okay, since then, it started North Congregational Church, and it was bought out at some point by the Grace Baptist Church, and then later they renamed it Hispanic Baptist Church, and it's still under that name. And it's still an active parish. It's in a nicely maintained area of Springfield, and we'll talk about that, of course. And so at least it's still up. Now, they might be able to use a Community Preservation Act grant to really spruce up the building a bit. But in general, once you get to, you realize, if you know anything about Henry Hobson Richardson, that this is definitely one of his designs. Heavy set windows embedded into the structure, spires, very dark looking masonry, brownstone, and the very heavy use of not smooth finish to facade, and also anytime there's a window, he makes it high window but narrow. And once you get used to his sites, his kind of buildings, you realize when you have one. The door is deeply embedded. Everything looks very dark and deep. And I invite you not only to do it here, but also go to Boston and see his Trinity Church, which is a wonderful sight to behold.
And really quick before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, for more information or to sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. And for private tours and other inquiries, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, @yahoo.com. and his tours make for fun, educational, outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, what type of neighborhood is the church in?
It's in a very historic neighborhood. This North Congregational Church is maybe 200 yards away, and on the same city block has the St. Michael the Archangel's Cathedral, which is the main church of the Springfield Catholic Diocese. It's also on the same block as Christ Church, which is the Episcopal Bishopry or Cathedral, and also in the same city block as the Springfield Museum Complex, which has 6 parts to it. It's also in the same block as the former Father Bevan School, which became Cathedral School and High School. It's also near the Chancellery of the Springfield Diocese. It's near Mattoon Street. So this city block has a lot going for it. It's in the back right corner of this whole district and down Elliott Street. And so the neighborhood is spectacular. The architecture is absolutely wonderful. I wish I had gone into the church. Someday I will go into. It's one of the few churches I haven't gone into. I usually like to go into these beautiful structures, but I'm sure it looks pretty nice inside too. So you can make a day of this place, walk around this block, and go to the museum. What a day.
And is the church well maintained?
Yes, but no also. So yes, it's clean around its outer edges. They keep everything trimmed on the trees and bushes. I've never seen the inside, but it's probably pretty nice. But in another sense, it's to the point that the structure is 152 years old, and it could use some sprucing up on the outside. In a Community Preservation Act in Springfield would do that. For instance, they're doing one in Christ Church, fixing up its stained glass windows and front facade. They could really do one on this North Congregational Church if someone in the congregation puts together the forms and apply for it. And they can get it up to the standard at which it was built. It was built by wonderful makers. It was designed by the greatest architect in the history of the United States. In this Richardsonian design, there's not enough of his structures around. Let's say he designed 60 structures around the country in his career, maybe 30 are left. And so simply we want to start to save these buildings. And hopefully this is one of them because it's such a gorgeous looking structure in a very historic block, the Quadrangle.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And we want to thank our listeners, of course, for tuning in as well. And you can check out a large selection of his other podcasts on his website, as well as on SoundCloud.com. And be sure to stay up to date with new videos and podcasts posted daily. Thank you for tuning in. We will be discussing the South Congregational Church located in Springfield, Mass. So what does the South Congregational Church look like?
It's a gorgeous church, and it deserves to be looked at and appreciated very much so. It's a beautiful round portion I like the best. The masonry stone used there is almost always the same. Now we're going to talk about, sure, its look, but also its history, and also its the neighborhood it's found inside, and how well maintained everything is. Now, it has that big round portion, but it has above it stained glass windows that are quite nice, and then it has a bit of a nice steeple going upwards. And I've never been inside this one, but I'm pretty sure it's gorgeous inside there.
And what is the history of the church?
It was built in 1875, so next year is the 150th anniversary of its construction. And it was designed by an architect whose name is William Potter. And architectural circles, he's very famous. He's done quite a few other churches, mostly towards New York City, for instance, in Pennsylvania. And this one is a gorgeous example, and I love the interplay between the tan-looking masonry stone, the whiter-looking stones, and then how light the stained glass window looks and respect for the whole church itself.
And really quick, before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill ours in, to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. And for more private inquiries or private tours, you can email him directly at bobcat4214@yahoo.com. And his tours make for fun educational outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, what neighborhood is this church in?
Well, it's about 2 blocks south of where you have the Springfield Catholic Diocese Cathedral, and 2 blocks south of us, also of Christ Church Episcopal Cathedral. And so there's a lot of churches nearby, and also the North Congregational Church is only about 3 blocks away, maybe a quarter mile away, so it's in a great area. The North Congregational Church, of course, was designed by Henry Hobson Richardson. All right, so William Potter is not quite the equal of that architect, but he was quite good himself. Now, the neighborhood, you might say, has gone downhill a little bit, but still, the church itself is still quite gorgeous, and they still have weekly masses there. So that tells you a lot. A lot of people like to go there. Now, it's a congregational church, which means that is part of the early religion of the United States, or Congregationalism, and they focus very much on the people themselves that brought the church into existence. And it's not exactly the first ever congregational church inside Springfield. That would be the first church itself, but it's one of many congregational churches, including those for African Americans too. So this South Congregational Church is gorgeous, and it's a fairly decent neighborhood around it. The upper part of the street has a lot of beautiful homes, and there's a lot to see.
And is the church well maintained?
I think it is quite well maintained. From what I can see on the outside, the brickwork is quite clean looking. The grounds are manicured very nicely. And so thus, it's a nice place to go. I don't know much about the inside. I try to visit the insides of almost every church, but there's so many of them, so I've never been able to go inside this one yet. So hopefully you can go in and tell me about it, right? Or someday I may go in and take pictures of the inside and learn more about its history. And like every church, every one of these has its own internet page that I've built up with video of the outside, images I've taken, text, and I'm going to build up even more. And hopefully I can have next year, this year 2024, maybe next year have a walking tour around this church to describe its neighborhood and describe the church, because it'll be the 150th year anniversary of the South Congregational Church.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And of course, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can find a large selection of our other podcasts on his website,